Hello and welcome to A-Level Business at Bullerswood. Apologies we can't see each other's face to face, but unfortunately we will have to make do with this for now, but we do look forward to welcoming you in September. My name is Mr. Bloxham. I'm the Head of Business Studies and Economics here. We also have Mr. Langman and Mrs. Corelli on the teaching team, so hopefully you'll get to work with those over the coming years. So, welcome to A-Level Business. Let's have a look at what the course entails. So we have 10 units spread across both years. Units 1 to 6 are the AS level work and 7 to 10 are what appears in the second year, although we do try to move on to some of the second year content towards the end of the first year if possible, so that we've got extra time to go over exams, technique, and make sure you're fully prepared for the exam. We have the AQA spec here, and we'll have a look at the exams themselves and what it consists of shortly. So the first unit is what is business. Now this is just a general introduction to the course, gives an idea of why businesses exist, what sort of contribution they have to society, whether it be in paying taxes or creating employment, but it helps to bridge the gap between students that perhaps haven't studied GCSE business, which is fine, and also extend the knowledge of those that are joining us with prior knowledge of GCSE business. Unit 2 is when we start looking at managers, leaderships and decision making, and you're going to see here that we've got one of the first models and theories that we have to look at, and it's called Tannenbaum and Schmidt's Continuum of Leadership. There are about 30 or so different models and theories that you will need to know, and we will teach over the course. You don't have a formula sheet or any notes in the exam, so you do have to fully understand what these theories mean and how to apply them to business questions. But in principle, this is looking at how leaders actually lead their team, whether they involve their team in the decision-making process, and which stage along the continuum perhaps they might exist. But this gives you an idea of some of the theories that we're going to be looking at. Unit 3 is all about marketing. So when we look at marketing, we're looking at how do we get our products to our customers, what is going to encourage them to buy it, what is it about the product itself, the price, the promotion, the place. Now, some of you will recognise these P's as being the marketing mix. However, at A level, we do take it to the extended marketing mix, where we include people, process and physical environment. So it's looking at, as a combination of different elements, how do we make sure our product is attractive, desirable and fulfills the needs of the customers. Unit 4 is all about operations, and you can see on the screen a relatively straightforward example of an inventory control chart. So when we're looking at lead times in regards to ordering new levels of stock and stopping up our warehouse, there are different ways we can calculate what sort of stock is needed. But of course, this is just seen in isolation. Many businesses move to a just-in-time stock approach where they don't necessarily have reorder levels, and they will look to make continuous improvements to their production techniques. But this gives you an idea. We will look at lots of different elements of operations within Unit 4. So Unit 5 is all about finance. There's no getting away from the fact there is an element of maths that's needed for A-level business. There's nothing more challenging than perhaps percentage change, but we do look at a lot of finance in detail. So we do need to be comfortable with looking at spreadsheets and calculating data. For instance, on the board at the moment, you've got a cash flow forecast for a particular company, and we would look through the different revenue lines and outflow lines to see what sort of cash is available, what sort of working capital is available for the business. We try and embed that throughout the course, so we are always referring to some of the maths and the numbers behind what we're doing. But it's not all quantitative data. We will also look at the qualitative side. What is this actually informing us about the business? What is it not considering? What's going on in the external environment perhaps? But there is definitely a significant amount of finance that does appear throughout. Unit 6 is all about human resources, so HR. We've got 3 classic theories of motivation displayed there, Taylor, Maslow and Hertzberg. They all look at different ways of how we can engage and motivate staff, but they all come from different standpoints. These are 3 of the theories of the 30 or so I mentioned before that you will need to know and will need to understand, and we go into quite a bit of detail into seeing how these theories actually play out in industry, in a variety of different industries, and the pros and cons to taking these approaches. Some of these are more suited to different industries than others, but we'll go into the detail of that as we move into the course. So units 1 to 6 are more functional areas, really. We're looking at different areas of the business. We're looking at finance, HR, marketing, operations. When we move into the second year and we're looking at units 7, 8, 9 and 10, it's a bit more strategic. We're bringing all of that knowledge together, that understanding, and looking at how the business uses that all together to make its decision making. So unit 7, we start to look at some ratios and some investment appraisals. And again, I did mention before, there isn't a formula sheet, so there's quite a lot of formulas that we're going to need to know and remember over the duration of the course, and you will need to apply them in the exam. So for example, we've got these different groups of ratios. We're looking at profitability ratios. How profitable is the business? How well does the business generate profits? Or we could be looking at liquidity, i.e. how is it managing its cash flow? Does it have the working capital available to meet its short-term liabilities, should its debts be called in? Or are we looking at efficiency? How efficient is the business at managing maybe the money it receives from its customers, or how quickly it pays its suppliers? Because if it doesn't manage that effectively, it can run out of cash. Even the most profitable businesses with a significant amount of assets can still go into administration and fail if it runs out of working capital, if it runs out of cash. So we do need to look at how businesses operate, and one way we do that is by looking at ratio analysis. We then got choosing strategic direction. So we're looking at a business, or we're looking at how businesses assess where they are within the market and perhaps which direction it wants to move into. And we look at it from a theory standpoint. So for instance, Bowman's strategic clock, we could think about them moving into differentiation or perhaps monopoly pricing, and how perhaps some areas on this clock are less competitive than others. For example, can you really continue maintaining profits if you're losing market share, offering a price that is not perceived as value for customers? So we look at where businesses find themselves and perhaps how they then go about choosing which direction to take themselves in. So unit 9, we're now looking at strategic methods, how businesses pursue different strategies. And this is again looking at it from boardroom level. What sort of overall key decisions are being made for the business? IKEA, for instance, was quite late to get into e-commerce. Has that been a bad thing for the business? Well, potentially not. The business model has been very successful. It's grown very well, but given the industry itself has grown significantly from e-commerce, what is it that IKEA has done so well to maintain their competitiveness without taking on without really enhancing their e-commerce platform? And we look at that, and we look at the pros and cons of the different directions businesses go in, and we look at some examples which are very successful, and of course we could look at some which have failed as well. And then the last unit, unit 10, is where we look at managing strategic change. So how do businesses deal with different changes? There could be external influences such as an economic shock, such as pandemics, COVID for instance. What has the business done to react to this change? How is it managing to survive this? How has it managed to get its employees on side? How does a business actually go about encouraging this change or incorporating this change into the business? So again, we're looking back to all of the functional areas we looked at unit 1, and we're seeing how businesses bring all that knowledge together to apply strategy to what it's deciding to do. So your exams, what does it look like? Well, you've got 3 papers. Paper 1, well, all papers are 2 hours long. They're all worth a third of your final A level. Paper 1 has some multiple choice at the beginning, but what makes it really different is that you've got 2 25-mark questions at the end that you get to choose the questions you pick. So you'll have an option of which questions to pick, and as long as you choose 2 of them, those are the areas that you're going to address. Paper 2, again, is 2 hours and a third of the A level, but it looks more at data response. You'll have some smaller case studies and you'll need to respond to the case study provided to you. Whereas paper 3 is different again. So this is where you've got one large case study and you're only going to have 6 questions. So that should tell you that they're all quite large questions. They're all essay style questions where you have to assess the particular case study and industry that you've been provided with and apply your knowledge and understanding of what you've learned to that industry in regards to the questions. So these 3 exams do all come at the end of year 2 and they're all worth a third each and they're all 2 hours each. So it's great to have you on board. I can't wait to get you all in the classroom. Refer back to the first slide if you do have any questions, so you can contact myself directly or either of my colleagues, and I really look forward to welcoming you to Bullers. Thanks very much.